When it comes to budgeting, most people think they're doing fine until a single mistake shows up and knocks them off balance. And the truth is, in 2026, the cost of these mistakes will feel heavier than ever. Inflation, rising interest rates, and unpredictable markets are going to make poor financial habits a lot more expensive. That's why today I want to break down 5 budgeting mistakes that can cost you big in 2026 and how to avoid them. The first mistake is falling for lifestyle inflation. This is when every raise or bonus turns into a bigger car payment, a nicer apartment, or more online shopping. It feels rewarding in the moment, investment, but the problem is it leaves you with no real progress. More income should mean more investing, not more spending. If your expenses rise as fast as your income, you'll stay stuck in the same financial cycle, no matter how much you earn. The second mistake is skipping an emergency fund. Life doesn't give warnings before hitting you with a job loss, medical bill, or unexpected repair. Without savings, you'll end up borrowing at the worst possible time, usually on credit cards with high interest. That's not just expensive, it creates a debt trap that's tough to escape. Investment. Building even a few months of savings gives you breathing room and keeps your budget safe when life throws a curveball. The third mistake is leaning on credit cards like they're free money. Sure, they give convenience and rewards, but too many people mistake the credit limit for actual income. Carrying balances into 2026 means you'll be paying even higher interest rates, and that's like setting your money on fire. If you can't pay in full each month, investment, your budget isn't balanced, it's broken. The fourth mistake is not tracking your expenses. Small leaks sink big ships, and money works the same way. Without tracking, you'll miss the daily coffee, the random subscriptions, and the impulse buys that slowly eat away at your paycheck. It doesn't matter if you use a notebook, an app, or a spreadsheet. Just track it. What gets measured gets managed. And this one habit can free up more money than you realize. The last mistake is not setting clear financial goals. Without goals, your budget has no direction. You'll spend randomly, save randomly, and end up wondering why you're still stressed about money. A budget isn't about restriction, it's about intention. When you know what you're working toward, whether that's paying off debt, buying a home, or investing for freedom, your money starts working for you instead of against you. So here's the bottom line. Budgeting mistakes aren't just small errors, they're habits that can cost you thousands. If you want 2026 to be the year where you actually move forward financially, avoid these 5 traps. Keep your lifestyle in check, build savings, pay off debt, track everything, and set clear goals. Do that, and you'll be miles ahead of most people still wondering why their money keeps disappearing. Lifestyle inflation is one of those traps that sneaks up on people without them even realizing it. You work hard, you get a raise, or maybe your side hustle finally pays off. And instead of using that extra money to build wealth, you reward yourself with a nicer apartment, a new car, or the latest phone. It feels completely justified. You're making more, so why not enjoy it? The problem is that lifestyle upgrades, while exciting at first, don't actually bring lasting happiness. The thrill of a bigger purchase fades quickly, but the monthly bills and obligations stay. Over time, this creates a cycle where your income rises, but your savings and investments remain stagnant. Essentially, you're running on a treadmill, working harder, but never really moving forward. In 2026, the cost of lifestyle inflation will be even higher because the economy is shifting. Inflation has already made everyday goods more expensive, and as wages increase to keep up, thus many people will feel tempted to raise their standard of living at the same pace. The danger here is subtle. By spending more every time you earn more, you never give yourself room to actually grow financially. It's not the one-time splurge that hurts, it's the recurring costs, bigger rent, higher car insurance, more utilities, and subscription fees that silently erode your income. Before long, you'll realize that your paycheck feels just as tight as it did years ago, even though you're making more money. A simple way to break out of this trap is to make a rule for yourself. Every time your income goes up, lock in a percentage for saving or investing before you upgrade your lifestyle. For example, if you get a 100 raise, commit to putting 700 straight into investments or savings and only allow yourself to use 300 for lifestyle improvements. This way, you still enjoy the reward of your hard work, but you're also guaranteeing long-term progress. The key is to treat extra income as an opportunity for freedom, not an excuse for more expenses. The truth is, lifestyle inflation doesn't just cost you money today, it costs you future wealth. That extra $500 a month you're spending on a luxury apartment could have been invested in index funds, compounding year after year, turning into tens of thousands of dollars down the road. By giving into lifestyle creep, you're not just spending more, you're giving up financial independence, peace of mind, and options later in life. So, in 2026, when raises and bonuses come your way, the smartest move isn't to chase the next shiny upgrade. It's to lock in your gains, grow your wealth, and let your future self live in comfort because you had the discipline to resist lifestyle inflation today. That's the difference between looking rich and actually being rich. An emergency fund is often seen as optional, something you'll get around to later once the bigger financial goals are handled. But the reality is, skipping this step is one of the most expensive budgeting mistakes you can make. Life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. A car breakdown, a sudden medical bill, or even a job loss. And when you don't have money set aside, those surprises turn into financial disasters. Without an emergency cushion, most people turn to credit cards, loans, or borrowing from family, and that immediately puts them into a cycle of debt that could take years to recover from. The problem isn't just the unexpected event itself. It's the long-term costs attached to not being prepared. In 2026, this mistake will sting even more because the cost of living continues to rise. Medical expenses, housing repairs, and even everyday essentials are becoming more expensive. And emergencies won't suddenly become cheaper. If anything, they'll be harder to handle. Imagine losing your job in an economy where bills are higher than ever. Without savings, the stress of surviving each day overshadows any chance of focusing on finding a solution. That kind of financial instability doesn't just hurt your wallet, it impacts your mental health, your family, and your ability to make smart decisions under pressure. An emergency fund is not about earning interest or growing your wealth. It's about buying peace of mind and protecting your budget from collapsing. Think of it as insurance against the unknown. When you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved, you give yourself room to breathe. You don't have to swipe a credit card for every setback. Everything makes a good investment, and you don't have to panic every time life throws you off course. It turns unpredictable chaos into a manageable inconvenience. Building this fund might seem overwhelming, but it doesn't have to happen overnight. Start with a small target, maybe 500 or 1,000, just enough to cover basic, unexpected costs. Then build it slowly, treating it like a bill you owe to yourself every month. Automating your savings is one of the easiest ways to stay consistent. Even if it's just 50 or 100 per paycheck, over time, it adds up. And the day you face a real emergency, you'll thank yourself for being disciplined enough to prepare. The biggest mistake people make isn't just failing to build an emergency fund. It's assuming they'll always figure it out when something happens. That mindset is dangerous because emergencies don't wait for the right timing. In 2026, if you want your budget to stay strong, having an emergency fund is not optional. It's essential. It's the shield that keeps your financial plan intact no matter what life throws at you. Credit cards can feel like a safety net, but in reality, relying too heavily on them is one of the most damaging budgeting mistakes you can make. They give the illusion of freedom because you can buy now and worry about paying later. Investment. But this false sense of security traps people in a cycle of debt. The moment you start carrying a balance from month to month, interest kicks in, and it's not small. In 2026, with interest rates staying high, that means every dollar you don't pay off can quickly double or triple in cost over time. What feels like a harmless swipe today can turn into months or even years of financial stress. The tricky part is that credit cards don't always feel dangerous at first. You get rewards, cashback points, and the convenience of not carrying cash. But these perks can trick you into overspending. Many people justify purchases because they're earning rewards, without realizing that the interest on unpaid balances wipes out any benefit. A 2% cashback doesn't mean much if you're paying 20% interest on the same purchase. In fact, investment, that so-called reward, becomes one of the most expensive mistakes in your budget. Another issue with depending on credit cards is that it distorts your sense of what you can actually afford. The credit limit might say you have 5,000 available, but that's not your money. It's the bank's money, and they're charging you dearly for the privilege of using it. This false comfort leads people to live beyond their means, piling on expenses that their actual income can't support. By the time the bill arrives, it's often too late to undo the damage. In 2026, the cost of carrying balances will be even heavier as credit card companies continue to raise rates and add fees. Missing even one payment could trigger penalty interest rates and late fees, adding unnecessary strain to your budget. Instead of building wealth, you'll find yourself working harder just to cover the cost of past decisions. It's a cycle that can quickly rob you of financial freedom. The solution is simple in theory, but it requires discipline. Never spend more on your credit card than you can pay off in full at the end of the month. Use it as a tool for convenience and rewards, but not as a way to borrow money you don't actually have. If you're already carrying a balance, make it a priority to pay it down aggressively. Cut extra expenses, redirect windfalls, and attack that debt like it's the enemy of your financial future, because it is. Relying too much on credit cards isn't just a budgeting slip up, it's a mindset problem. Once you stop seeing them as backup income and start treating them as the dangerous debt traps they really are, you'll protect your finances from one of the costliest mistakes in 2026. Not tracking your expenses might sound harmless, but it's one of the biggest reasons people feel like their money disappears every month. The truth is, it's not the big, obvious bills that ruin most budgets. It's the small, unnoticed leaks. A few dollars here, a subscription there, daily snacks, or impulse buys online. They don't feel significant in the moment, but together they can drain hundreds of dollars from your account every month. When you're not paying attention, investment, you're essentially letting your money slip away without realizing it. By the end of the month, you look at your bank balance and wonder where it all went. That frustration is the direct result of failing to track. In 2026, this mistake will become even more costly because everyday living expenses are higher than ever. Prices on groceries, utilities, and services continue to climb, which means small leaks are no longer just minor. They add up to serious money lost. Think about it, a 15 subscription you don't use, a 10 daily coffee habit, a $50 in food delivery each week. Add those up over a year and you're talking about thousands of dollars that could have been invested, saved, or used to pay down debt. Investment. Without tracking, those numbers vanish into thin air and you're left with nothing to show for it. Another danger of not tracking is that it gives you a false sense of control. Many people assume they know where their money is going, but when they actually sit down to review, they're shocked by how different reality looks compared to their assumptions. You might think you're only spending $200 to $100 a month eating out, when in reality it's closer to $500. This gap between what you think and what's actually happening is where budgets fail. If you're not tracking, you can't manage, and if you can't manage, your financial goals remain out of reach. The good news is that tracking doesn't have to be complicated. You don't need a complex spreadsheet or hours of effort. There are apps that automatically categorize your expenses, or you can keep it simple by writing them down weekly. The point isn't perfection, it's awareness. Once you start seeing the numbers clearly, you naturally make better choices. Investment, that 20 impulse buy suddenly feels different when you see it listed next to 10 other small impulse buys from the same month. Awareness creates accountability, and accountability creates change. Investment. If you want your budget to actually work in 2026, tracking isn't optional. It's essential. It's like shining a light in a dark room. Once you see where your money is truly going, you gain the power to redirect it toward your goals. Without tracking, you're flying blind, and flying blind with money is one of the fastest ways to crash financially.